They say love is blind, but revenge has perfect vision. For 25 years, I believed I had the perfect marriage. A beautiful wife, a successful career, a daughter who made us proud, the American dream personified. Then came that rainy Tuesday afternoon when I decided to surprise Sarah by coming home early. I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to see them. But sometimes fate has a twisted sense of humor, and now I sit at my kitchen table, watching my wife walk in with another man. What she doesn't know is that this moment isn't a surprise to me at all. It's the beginning of a plan that's been weeks in the making. Sarah thinks she's in control, that her perfect little affair is still a secret. She has no idea that in the next few hours, every carefully constructed lie she's built will come crashing down. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't about causing pain. It's about revealing truth. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs. They say hindsight is 20/20, and man, isn't that the truth? I'm David Mitchell, and this is the story of how my picture-perfect life in suburban Boston turned into something straight out of a drama series. But let me tell you this. Sometimes the most painful lessons lead to the most satisfying conclusions. I guess I was too busy being the perfect husband to notice when Sarah started changing. 25 years of marriage, a beautiful house in Brookline, and our daughter Emma graduating from medical school. We were living the American dream. At least that's what I thought. Sarah and I met at Boston University's alumni gathering. I was already establishing myself in the investment world, while she was making waves in corporate law. Her ambition and intelligence caught my attention immediately, and within a year, we were married. We built our life methodically, step by step. Sarah made partner at her law firm by 30, while I grew my investment firm into one of Boston's most respected boutique agencies. We had Emma 2 years after getting married, and watching Sarah balance motherhood with her career made me fall in love with her even more. Our friends called us the power couple, and we wore that label with pride. It all began on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in October. I'd taken the day off from my investment firm to prepare for our upcoming anniversary. 25 years, it seemed surreal. I'd spent the morning arranging everything. The private dinner reservation at L'Espalier, her favorite flowers ordered, and the diamond necklace I'd picked out last month sitting in my desk drawer. Funny how life throws curveballs when you least expect them. I was sitting in our kitchen, finalizing the last details over email, when I heard the garage door open. The sound was unexpected. Sarah never came home before 6, and it was barely 3:30. The click of heels on our marble floor told me it was definitely her. My wife of a quarter-century walked in, her blonde hair perfectly styled as always, wearing that navy Burberry dress I'd given her for her birthday. But she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a tall man in an expensive suit, looking like he'd stepped out of a GQ magazine. He was younger than us, probably in his late 30s, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having faced real adversity. My stomach twisted as I watched his hand casually resting on my wife's lower back, a gesture that spoke of familiarity that shouldn't exist. Sarah froze when she saw me, her green eyes widening in surprise. "David, why aren't you at work?" Her voice had that slight tremor I'd come to recognize whenever she was caught off guard. The man behind her shifted uncomfortably, but didn't remove his hand from her back. I noticed how Sarah's left hand fidgeted with her wedding ring, a nervous habit she'd had since our wedding day. But this time, it wasn't nerves about giving a big presentation or meeting important clients. No, this was different. The air in our tastefully decorated kitchen felt thick with tension and unspoken truths. "I took the day off," I replied calmly, though my heart was racing. "I thought I'd get some anniversary preparations done." I watched as Sarah's face paled slightly at the mention of our anniversary. She'd been so distant lately, canceling our regular dinner dates, staying late at the office. Now it all made sense, like pieces of a puzzle finally falling into place. The silence in the kitchen stretched for what felt like an eternity before Sarah finally cleared her throat. I watched her carefully, noting how her perfectly manicured fingers gripped her designer handbag just a little too tightly. 25 years of marriage had taught me every tell she had. "David, this is Marcus Reynolds. He's our new senior partner at the firm." She attempted to sound professional, but I caught the slight waver in her voice. Marcus stepped forward, extending his hand with practiced charm, his movement smooth and confident, like a politician at a fundraiser. "Mr. Mitchell, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've heard so much about you." His voice carried that smooth confidence typical of high-powered attorneys. Early 40s, perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit, Rolex Submariner on his wrist. Everything about him screamed success and ambition. The kind of man who had probably never heard the word no in his professional life. I ignored his outstretched hand and instead took a slow sip from my coffee mug, savoring the tension in the room. Funny, I've heard absolutely nothing about you. I watched as Sarah's face tightened at my deliberate rudeness. And please call me Mr. Mitchell. Only friends call me David. The kitchen, with its gleaming granite countertops and high-end appliances, suddenly felt smaller, more confining. Sarah's anniversary gift, still hidden in my desk drawer upstairs, felt like a lead weight on my conscience. Sarah stepped between us, her lawyer instincts kicking in. We were just going over some case files. The Thompson merger is proving more complicated than expected. She moved toward the kitchen island, putting some distance between herself and Marcus, but I noticed how her eyes flickered to him briefly, seeking reassurance. The Thompson merger? I smiled, remembering the email I'd received last week from an anonymous source. Wasn't that finalized 3 days ago? The press release is already drafted. I watched as Sarah's carefully composed expression faltered, the mask of professional confidence slipping for just a moment. Marcus jumped in smoothly. We're dealing with some post-merger integration issues. He loosened his tie slightly, the first crack in his polished exterior. A light sheen of sweat had appeared on his forehead. Complex legal matters, you understand? Oh, I understand complex matters quite well, I replied, my voice carrying an edge that made Sarah flinch. For instance, I understand that your wife, Catherine, is still settling into her new position at Boston General Hospital. Pediatric surgery must be demanding. The color drained from Marcus's face so quickly it was almost comical. Sarah's head snapped toward him, her eyes widening in shock and betrayal. Your wife? You told me you were divorced 2 years ago. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. I leaned back in my chair, watching the perfect facade begin to crumble. Would you like to see the lovely family photo the hospital published last month? Your kids are adorable, Marcus. The twins must be what, 7 now? I pulled out my phone. The article about Catherine's groundbreaking pediatric surgical technique was fascinating. You must be very proud. Sarah's face had gone through a rainbow of emotions: shock, betrayal, anger, and finally, something that looked like fear. She knew me well enough to realize that this was just the beginning. Marcus recovered his composure quickly, though his hands betrayed him as they fidgeted with his tie. Mr. Mitchell, I think there's been a misunderstanding. He shot a quick glance at Sarah, who had sunk into one of our kitchen chairs, her face ashen. A misunderstanding? I pulled out my phone, opening my email. Like the misunderstanding about your lunch meetings at the Four Seasons? Or perhaps the misunderstanding about your weekend business trip to Martha's Vineyard last month. I watched as Sarah's hands began to shake. You've been following me? Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. The confident lawyer facade had crumbled completely now. Following you? No, darling, I didn't need to. I turned my phone screen toward them, showing a series of time-stamped photographs. The anonymous email I received 2 weeks ago was quite comprehensive. Marcus straightened his tie, lawyer mode engaged. Mr. Mitchell, whatever you think you know dash. I know that you've been sleeping with my wife for the past 3 months. I cut him off coldly. I know about the hotel receipts, the late-night meetings, and the burner phone Sarah bought. I turned to my wife. Really, Sarah? A burner phone? Sarah stood up suddenly, anger replacing shock. You had no right to investigate me like this. What about trust? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Trust? Interesting word coming from someone sharing our private life with this man. I gestured at Marcus. Did you think about trust when you were in his bed? It's not like that, Sarah protested weakly. Marcus and we connected on a different level. You've been so distant lately. Spare me the justifications, I interrupted. Let's discuss your plans for this weekend. New York City, wasn't it? Our special place, Sarah? The city where I proposed, where we spent our honeymoon? Marcus tried to step in. Mr. Mitchell, this is getting out of hand. Perhaps we should all take some time to cool off dash. Oh, we're just getting started, I replied, pulling out a manila envelope. But before we continue, Marcus, would you like to call Catherine? I'm sure she'd love to hear about your plans. I have her number right here. Sarah's head snapped up. You wouldn't, she whispered. I smiled, the kind of smile that made both of them step back. Wouldn't I? You seem very certain about what I would or wouldn't do. But then again, you also seemed certain I'd never find out about your affair. I spread the contents of the envelope on the kitchen island: photographs, hotel receipts, phone records, and our prenuptial agreement. Sarah's eyes widened in recognition. Is that? She started, her voice trailing off. Yes, it is. And before your boyfriend starts spouting legal advice, you might want to know that I've had it updated and revalidated every 2 years. Your signature is on every version. Marcus reached for the documents, but I stopped him with a look. Your legal expertise won't be necessary. In fact, I've already taken care of all the legal matters. Would you like to know what else I've been doing while you two were playing house? Sarah, why don't you sit down? I gestured to the kitchen chair. You too, Marcus. We're about to have a rather interesting video conference. I pulled out my laptop from my briefcase and set it on the counter. Sarah's legal instincts finally kicked in. I'm not doing anything without my attorney present. Oh, that won't be necessary, I smiled, opening my laptop. You see, I've already consulted with several attorneys. In fact, we're about to meet one right now. I pressed a few keys, and the familiar Zoom connecting sound filled our kitchen. David, can you hear me? A distinguished-looking man in his 60s appeared on the screen. Perfectly, Richard. I believe you know my wife, Sarah. I watched as Sarah's face drained of color. Richard Thompson was the managing partner of her law firm's biggest rival. Sarah, it's been a while. Richard nodded curtly. Marcus, I must say I'm disappointed, though not entirely surprised. Marcus stepped forward, his lawyer persona trying to reassert itself. Mr. Thompson, I don't understand why you're involved in a private matter. Private? Richard's laugh was cold. Nothing about this is private anymore, Marcus. The ethics board received quite a comprehensive file this morning. Sleeping with a client's wife? That's a serious breach of professional conduct. I watched as Marcus's perfect facade cracked further. Ethics board, he whispered. Did you really think I'd just sit back and let this play out? I asked, turning to face them both. While you were planning your romantic weekend in New York, I was planning too. Richard, would you like to share the news? Certainly. Richard adjusted his glasses. Marcus, effective immediately. You're suspended pending an ethics investigation. Sarah, given your involvement with a colleague and the misuse of firm resources for personal affairs, the partners will be voting on your position this afternoon. Sarah jumped up. You can't do this. I've given 15 years to this firm, and you threw it all away for what? I asked quietly. A few months of excitement with a man who couldn't even be honest about his own marriage? Speaking of marriage, Richard continued, Catherine was quite interested in the information we shared with her this morning. Marcus collapsed into a chair. You contacted my wife? Oh, that's just the beginning, I smiled, pulling out another folder. Would you like to know what else I have planned? Or should we wait for our next video call? Through the screen, Richard cleared his throat. David, my next appointment is ready. Shall we proceed with the other matters we discussed? Yes, please set everything in motion, I replied, watching Sarah and Marcus exchange panicked glances. I believe we're about to have a very enlightening afternoon. The look of defeat on their faces was just the beginning. After spending weeks meticulously planning every detail, watching my wife and her lover squirm under the weight of their exposed lies felt like the first taste of justice. As Richard's image disappeared from the screen, I opened another window. Now let's talk about the Thompson merger documents you've been sharing, Marcus. The SEC finds them quite interesting. As Marcus and Sarah absorbed the impact of the first video call, I was already setting up the next one. The familiar Zoom ringtone filled the kitchen again, this time displaying the face of Gerald Parker, president of the Boston Bar Association. Ah, David, Gerald nodded gravely. I see they're both with you. Excellent. His presence made Sarah grip the edge of the counter, her knuckles turning white. Gerald, I smiled. Thank you for making time for us today. I believe you've reviewed the documentation I sent. Indeed, Gerald shuffled some papers on his desk. Marcus, the ethics violations alone are staggering. Sleeping with a client's spouse, using firm resources to facilitate the affair, falsifying billing records to cover your tracks. Marcus stood up straighter, attempting to salvage what was left of his career. Sir, I can explain dash. Save it for your disciplinary hearing. Gerald cut him off. The evidence is quite comprehensive. David has provided us with hotel receipts, phone records, and some rather explicit emails between you and Sarah discussing how to hide your activities. Sarah's head snapped up. What emails? Her voice was barely a whisper. I turned to her, my smile cold. Did you really think that burner phone was secure? Amateur hackers can crack those in minutes. A professional team takes even less time. You hired hackers? Sarah's legal mind finally engaging. That's illegal dash. No more illegal than using firm resources to conduct your affair, Gerald interrupted. Sarah, as a senior partner, you should have known better. The firm's reputation is now at risk. I watched as my wife's professional life began to crumble before her eyes. 25 years of marriage, and I'd never seen her look so defeated. But I wasn't done yet. Gerald, I continued, please tell them about the Bar Association's emergency meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Yes, Gerald cleared his throat. Given the severity of the ethical violations and the potential damage to multiple firms' reputations, we're convening a special ethics committee. Both of your licenses to practice law could be suspended pending a full investigation. Marcus collapsed back into his chair. This can't be happening, he muttered. Oh, but it is, I said, pulling out another folder. And we're just getting started. Our next call should be particularly interesting. The SEC has some questions about those merger documents you've been mishandling. Sarah's head snapped up. The SEC? David, what have you done? Me? I laughed softly. I simply provided information to the relevant authorities. You two did all the rest yourselves. Amazing what people will reveal when they think they're being careful. Gerald spoke up again. I should mention that several of your recent cases will need to be reviewed. The appearance of impropriety alone could cause significant issues for your clients. The weight of their professional destruction hung heavy in the air. Everything they'd worked for, their reputations, their careers, all balanced on the edge of a cliff. And I was about to give them the final push. Thank you, Gerald, I said, moving my cursor to end the call. I believe our next appointment is in 5 minutes. The SEC doesn't like to be kept waiting. As Gerald's image disappeared from the screen, I looked at my wife and her lover. Their perfect worlds were shattering piece by piece, and we weren't even halfway through my planned revelations. Shall we continue? I asked, already dialing the next number. I believe this next part will be particularly enlightening for both of you. The SEC investigation call was brief, but devastating. The investigator detailed the suspicious patterns in their communications and trading activities related to the Thompson merger. As the call ended, Sarah looked physically ill. I clicked a new link immediately. William Bennett, the managing partner of Marcus's law firm, appeared on screen. Marcus, William's normally friendly face was stern. I've just finished reviewing the evidence Mr. Mitchell provided. In my 30 years of practice, I've never seen such a blatant disregard for professional ethics. Marcus tried to straighten his tie. William, I can explain dash. Save it. William cut him off. The partners have already voted. You're terminated, effective immediately. Security is clearing out your office as we speak. Sarah reached for Marcus's hand, but he pulled away, his world crumbling around him. I couldn't help but notice how quickly he distanced himself when things got tough. That's not all, William continued. We're filing a formal complaint with the Bar Association. The misuse of firm resources, the ethical violations, the potential SEC violations, it's all documented. And Sarah, your firm has been notified as well. Sarah's professional mask finally cracked. My firm? What do you mean? Did you think they wouldn't find out? I asked quietly. About how you shared confidential information with Marcus. How you helped him manipulate case information to cover your tracks. William nodded gravely. The evidence suggests collusion between you two that goes beyond just the affair. Multiple cases will need to be reviewed. Clients will need to be notified. No, Sarah whispered, you can't do this. My reputation dashed. Your reputation? I laughed softly. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with a colleague and compromising client confidentiality. Marcus suddenly stood up. This is a witch hunt. You can't prove dash. Actually, we can, William interrupted, holding up a file. Phone records, emails, hotel receipts, surveillance photos. Even recordings of your conversations in the firm's conference rooms. Sarah's head snapped up. Recordings? Those new smart conference room systems your firm installed last month? They record everything, including those late-night strategy sessions you two enjoyed. William cleared his throat. The ethics committee has scheduled an emergency hearing for tomorrow. Given the severity of the violations, they're considering immediate suspension of both your law licenses. Thank you, William, I said, ending the call. I turned to face them. Comfortable? We're only halfway through our schedule. Next up is someone I think you'll both recognize from your weekend getaway plans. Marcus looked confused, but Sarah's face showed real fear. She knew what was coming next. I clicked the next link on my laptop, and a new face appeared on screen. Catherine Reynolds, Marcus's wife, looked directly at her husband, her expression a mix of anger and disappointment. "Hello, Marcus," she said quietly. The calm in her voice was more terrifying than any shouting could have been. Sarah visibly flinched at the sight of the woman whose marriage she'd helped destroy. "Kathy," Marcus whispered, his face losing what little color remained. Why are you dashed?" "Mr. Mitchell contacted me last week," Catherine interrupted. "He was kind enough to share some very interesting information about your late nights at the office." I watched as Marcus struggled to find words. Sarah sat frozen, facing the reality of the other life she'd helped destroy. Catherine continued, her voice steady but cold. "The twins asked about you this morning. I told them Daddy's been busy with work. I didn't have the heart to tell them their father's been busy destroying his career and our marriage." "The children," Marcus started, but Catherine cut him off. "Don't you dare mention our children. Not after what I've seen." She held up her phone. "Hotel receipts, Marcus? In the same city where our kids have their soccer tournaments? While I was sitting in the bleachers, cheering them on, you were in a hotel with her." Sarah tried to speak. "Mrs. Reynolds." I dashed. "Don't." Catherine's voice could have frozen fire. "Don't you dare speak to me. You knew about me. About our children. Marcus told me how you two laughed about his boring family life in those hotel rooms." I watched Sarah's face crumble as she realized the full extent of Marcus's betrayal. Not just of his wife, but of her as well. All those stories about being divorced, about his lonely life, lies within lies. "The divorce papers will be filed today," Catherine continued. "And Marcus, your mother called. She'd like her grandmother's ring back. The one you gave to your girlfriend here while still wearing the wedding ring I gave you." Sarah's hand flew to her neck, where a vintage diamond pendant hung on a chain, Marcus's family heirloom gift to her last month. The look of humiliation on her face was almost painful to watch. "Almost. Kathy, please." Marcus stood up. "We could talk about this, Dash." "Talk?" Catherine laughed bitterly. "Like how you talked to the headmaster at the twins' school, explaining why the tuition check bounced? Don't worry, I've taken care of it. Though your new unemployment situation might make the next payment interesting." I watched as Marcus collapsed back into his chair. Everything he'd built, every lie he'd told, all crumbling at once. "The movers will be at the house tomorrow," Catherine finished. "Don't bother coming home. Your things will be in storage. Once you find a new place and can afford the fees." Before ending the call, Catherine turned to Sarah. "He told you he was divorced? That I was out of the picture? Interesting. He told his last mistress the same thing. And the one before her." The screen went dark, leaving a devastating silence in its wake. Sarah turned to Marcus, tears in her eyes. "Last mistress? The one before her?" I smiled, pulling up another video call. "Oh, did Marcus not tell you about Jessica? Or Amanda?" "Don't worry. They're both eager to share their stories." The revelation about Marcus's other affairs had left Sarah completely shattered. But I wasn't done yet. I had saved the most devastating blow for last. As I clicked the next video link, Sarah's eyes widened in recognition of the familiar ringtone, our daughter's special tone. "Hi, Dad." Rachel appeared on screen, her face serious. At 28, she was the spitting image of Sarah at that age. But right now, there was none of her mother's warmth in her expression. "Rachel?" Sarah lurched forward. "Honey, what are you dash?" "Don't honey me, Mom." Rachel cut her off. "I've been listening to everything for the past hour. Dad thought I deserved to know what was happening to our family." Sarah collapsed back into her chair. "Baby, please, this is complicated, Dash." "Complicated?" Rachel's laugh was bitter. "Was it complicated when you missed my pregnancy announcement dinner last month because you were with him?" She pointed at Marcus. "At that hotel in Providence?" I watched as Sarah's face crumbled. Your pregnancy dinner. But you told me it was canceled dash. No, Mom. I told everyone else it was postponed because you didn't show up. Do you know how it felt, sitting there with James and our families, making excuses for you? Marcus tried to stand, perhaps sensing it was time to leave, but my glare kept him in place. This was part of his punishment too, watching the destruction he'd helped cause. Rachel, sweetheart, Sarah's voice was pleading. You're going to be a mother soon. You must understand that sometimes things happen dash. Don't you dare. Rachel's voice shook with anger. Don't you dare use my baby to justify your choices. You know what's really complicated, Mom? Explaining to my child why Grandma destroyed our family. Why she chose some random man over a 25-year marriage. Sarah was openly crying now. Please, Rachel, we can work through this dash. Like you worked through your marriage vows? Rachel asked coldly. You know what's funny? Last week I was telling James how excited I was for you and Dad to be grandparents. How you'd be such amazing role models for my child. I watched as each word hit Sarah like a physical blow. This was the price of betrayal. Not just a marriage destroyed, but a family torn apart. I've already talked to the baby shower planner, Rachel continued. We've changed the venue and the guest list. Don't bother asking for the new details. Sarah's head snapped up. You're uninviting me from your baby's shower? I'm uninviting you from my life, Mom. At least until I can look at you without feeling disgusted. My child deserves better than a grandmother who throws away her family for a cheap affair. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus sat staring at his hands, perhaps finally understanding the ripple effect of their actions. Sarah had lost not just her marriage and career, but her daughter and future grandchild as well. After Rachel's call ended, the kitchen fell into a heavy silence. Sarah sat there, tears streaming down her face, while Marcus stared blankly at the wall. Their perfect little affair had crumbled into dust, taking everything else with it. Well, I said, standing up and straightening my jacket, I think we're done here. Marcus, you have 48 hours to leave the state. I've made it clear to certain people that your continued presence here would be unfortunate. Marcus looked up, attempting to summon some of his lawyer bravado. Are you threatening me? Not at all. I smiled coldly. I'm simply informing you of a deadline. What happens if you miss it isn't a threat. It's a promise. Sarah finally found her voice. David, please. We can work through this. 25 years of marriage dash are over. I cut her off. The divorce papers have already been filed. Your copy is in that envelope on the counter. Don't bother trying to contest anything. The prenup is ironclad, and my lawyers have documented every aspect of your affair. But where am I supposed to go? Sarah's voice was small, lost. Well, not to New York this weekend. I laughed softly. Though I'm sure Marcus's wife would love to know which hotel you were planning to stay at. Marcus stood up abruptly. This is insane. You've destroyed both our careers. Our reputations dashed. No, I interrupted. You did that yourselves. I just made sure everyone found out about it. The truth has a way of doing that, destroying carefully built lies. I picked up my briefcase and headed toward the door. Sarah, you have until tomorrow evening to pack your things. After that, the locks will be changed, and security will be instructed not to let you in. Security, she whispered. Yes, the same company that's been documenting your affair for the past month. They're quite thorough. I turned to Marcus. 48 hours, remember? I'd start packing if I were you. Sarah stood up shakily. Our daughter, please, let me talk to Rachel. I need to explain dash. Explain what? I asked quietly. How you missed her pregnancy announcement because you were in a hotel with him. How you were planning to miss her baby shower for another romantic weekend. Some things can't be explained away, Sarah. I opened the front door and paused. One more thing. I've canceled all your credit cards and frozen the joint accounts. The prenup allows me to do that. By the way, you might want to start looking for a place to stay. Though with your career in shambles, affording even a decent apartment might be challenging. Marcus moved toward Sarah, perhaps to comfort her, but stopped when I turned back. Oh, and Marcus? Catherine said something about wanting her grandmother's ring back. The one you gave to Sarah while telling her it was a family heirloom. 2 months have passed since that afternoon in my kitchen. Life has a way of moving forward, even when you think it might stop. I've learned that betrayal doesn't just end a relationship. It transforms everyone involved. Sarah moved to Albany, taking a junior position at a small law firm, the only place that would hire her after the ethics board suspended her license for 6 months. Our divorce was finalized last week. The prenup worked exactly as intended. She left with barely enough to rent a small apartment. Marcus didn't make the 48-hour deadline. He tried calling Catherine, begging for another chance, but she'd already filed for divorce. The ethics violation destroyed his career in Boston. Last I heard, he was working as a paralegal in Michigan, the only state where he could find work. The irony of their affair wasn't lost on anyone. They'd risked everything: careers, family, reputation, for what they thought was love, only to end up unable to even look at each other. When their worlds crumbled, they turned on each other like strangers. Rachel's baby shower was last weekend. The celebration was bittersweet. The empty chair where Sarah should have sat was a constant reminder of what had been lost. But when Rachel showed me the ultrasound pictures, revealing twins, I felt hope for the first time in months. Our family would grow, even if it was smaller now. I still see Dr. Waters, my therapist. She helps me understand that while trust can be shattered in an instant, rebuilding yourself takes time. Love isn't blind, she often reminds me, but sometimes we choose not to see. The house feels different now. I've redecorated, removing every trace of Sarah. The kitchen, where everything fell apart, has been completely renovated. Sometimes, late at night, I think about those 25 years of marriage and wonder if there were signs I missed, or if Sarah had been living a double life all along. Catherine reached out last month, thanking me for exposing the affair before it could hurt her children more. Her twins are adjusting to their new normal, though they still ask about their father. Some wounds take generations to heal. The anonymous email that started it all? I finally traced it back to Jessica, one of Marcus's previous conquests. She'd recognized him with Sarah at a restaurant and decided to prevent another family from being destroyed. Sometimes justice comes from unexpected places. Last week, I ran into Sarah at Rachel's doctor's appointment. She looked older, tired, the designer clothes replaced by off-the-rack basics. She tried to speak to me, perhaps to apologize or explain, but I just walked past her. Some betrayals go beyond forgiveness. Rachel is due in 3 months. She's decided to name one of the twins David, after me. Life is a way of giving back what betrayal takes away. New beginnings rise from the ashes of broken trust. I've learned that revenge, when served cold and calculated, isn't about causing pain. It's about revealing truth. Sarah and Marcus didn't just lose their love affair. They lost everything they'd spent their lives building. Their punishment wasn't my elaborate plan. It was living with the consequences of their own choices.